I was thinking about these themes around the shadow and the light, and from kind of sorrow to gratitude, this transformation, this alchemy that we can go through. And I came across a quote that I thought just fit this so well by a man called Cory Muscara. And he says, "You won't find inner peace by focusing on the positive. Inner peace isn't a mindset shift. It's the result of meeting yourself deeply, honestly, and in all your shame until there's nothing left to hide and no more reasons to run." This to me beautifully, beautifully depicts the process of moving through our shadow to really come home to ourselves. Like if we're reaching for light, even if we're reaching for these words that we hear a lot today called ascension, we have to move through our shadow. We have to feel into our entire human experience to the point where, as he says, there is no shame, because you realize that all of it is worthy of being loved. And when you can love and embrace and accept and therefore alchemize all of it, then you truly come into a place of bliss and gratitude that isn't a forced gratitude, into a state of positivity that isn't a forced positivity. So today I want to talk about this illusion of positivity. And even sometimes I like to use the word gratitude instead of positivity, but we cannot get to a place of gratitude unless we have moved through our shadow. Otherwise, that also becomes a false sense of gratitude. So let's pull apart these illusions and see what's underneath. This is Corinne Bloom, and you're listening to Raw Conversations. It's funny because I'm sitting here, talking about this human process. And when I really sit with it and I really sink in, I think, wow, it is so simple. It's actually so simple. Because it's really just the act of, can I sit with my entire self, all of my thoughts, feelings, experiences, judgments, stories, shame, all of that, everything. Can I just sit with it with love? That's really it. Like that's where we're wanting to get to, right? That I can sit here and be the container of love and hold my entire humanity within the lap of love, and for it to just be okay. I think one of the biggest questions, the most common questions that I ask my clients is, can this be okay? And even if it's not okay, can that be okay? I've been saying that for, a decade and a half now. And it seems so simple because it is simple. And yet the process there can be complex. It can be, and this is the paradox of life. Like I'm just seeing this more and more and more. It's just it always comes back to a kind of paradox, but there's beauty in that. So the process of getting there is complex simply because, it's hard to know where it all begins or where it all began. But I think it's really because we're having to unlearn so much conditioning, so much shame. And I think something that was actually really useful for me that I heard Darius Wright say was this game, right? This kind of what we've come down at this period of time, which has been thousands of years, but this game of life, this school of life, this time around, like we can look at it as like there's been different games. We're almost at the end of this one, I believe. But this time around, he said, we're experiencing that which we are not. And I found that really interesting because if we're innately love and compassion, I really truly believe that that's who we are and that's what all of existence is made out of. Then experiencing that which we are not, it brings us into this journey. This is what I've called the arc of life, the arc of being human, is that we essentially come in intrinsically as we are, right? Babies are so pure and authentic and full of love. And then through our human experience, we forget. We get disconnected. The wound pulls us down into being human. We kind of forget our divinity in that process. We experience suffering. We experience challenge, hardship, all of the, the messy bits of being human. But then when we learn to actually embrace that, when we actually learn to listen to that and allow, what made our heart close, allow it to reopen, it is kind of like a rebirthing. And from that place, we remember again the divinity of who we are, who we truly, truly are, the essence of who we are. And that arc is really interesting. It's really beautiful. Some people might be like, well, that's a lot of waste of time, but it's not, because we grow through that experience. And so that's the arc to me. There's like a rainbow arch of what we experience in that kind of squiggly trajectory. And that's a really beautiful thing. So I want to talk about this illusion of positivity. So a lot of even spirituality or in the self-development, kind of arena, there is this, just be positive. And I've never, if you followed me, you know this, I've never liked these terms of positive and negative and good and bad and right and wrong. And this emotion's good and that emotion's bad. And I really genuinely believe, because I'm someone that I don't turn away from the shadow. And so I feel like that's my gift. That is where I can be of service, is, your own wounding or your own suffering or your own hardship becomes the medicine. Once you've sat with it, it becomes the medicine to be able to heal others. And so I feel like the way that I can be of service is to share the wisdom that I've gained by really sitting with and being with and moving through the shadow. I never in my life, as someone that can go deep, that can go dark, that is very emotionally centered, heart centered in the Enneagram, I'm speaking in that triad. I'm not painting myself as a saint, don't worry. I'm human like the rest of us, even if I don't feel like I'm from here. I never found be positive, just be positive about it. I never found that to be useful, because for me that felt so bypassing and also so almost turning away from something that I knew was a gift. I know I've shared this before that, when I was in my 20s and I was really following a Buddhist practice, I hit a wall when it came to how they related to emotions. Because Buddhism is essentially, at least the lineage that I was following, felt very masculine. And emotions are more going into the feminine, non-gender based, but going more into the feminine within us. And I always felt, there's a whole pot of gold. There's a whole box of treasure here that is not being looked at. And so I kind of started to veer off a little bit. And I remember my boyfriend at the time was studying the diamond technique, and that I felt was moving more into kind of the space. And I never really studied it fully, but it felt a little bit more of what I intuitively was moving towards, which was just sit. Sit in the heart of this, sit in the heart of your, the stew of your emotions. And as I'm speaking, I think about, the diamond, as a symbol itself. It's hard rock on the outside, and you need to kind of get through the hard rock in order to open up and see the beautiful gem that's in the middle of it. And, maybe that sounds like a cliche, but we are that, we are essentially the diamond, if you want to call it that as a metaphor, but life can harden us. And we have to get through the hard rock, but you can't circumvent it. You can't bypass it. If you're looking for the diamond outside of the stone, outside of the rock, and you're trying to falsely create it by being positive, it's you're never going to be able to really truly replicate it. And you're never going to truly be able to, what I want to support people in experiencing is relax into who you are. Relax into who you are. Sometimes positivity is really tiring. especially when we've been living in a kind of frequency and dimension that's actually much more accustomed to being, I'll go along with the terms, it's much more accustomed to being negative, and in a low frequency, actually positivity can take a lot of energy. But I find this kind of trying to be positive about something. I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I'm not saying don't be positive, don't have a positive outlook. That's not what I'm talking about here. What I'm speaking to specifically is this kind of, I will be better if I'm positive, and I'm going to neglect my human self in the process of that. This is what I'm speaking to very specifically. You might naturally be positive, but if positivity becomes a scapegoat, if that becomes a method of escaping and running away, as Cory said, running away from your truth and who you are and what you're experiencing right now in this moment and what your humanity is experiencing and what you need to move through in order to actually feel the liberation and the enlightenment that the root of positivity is trying to reach. You might have to go through the forest first, but when you reach the light on the other side, it is going to be tenfold, exponentially more liberating and more blissful than any false route of positivity. Because that route is authentic, where just taking the route of positivity, if it's at the expense of shunning and ignoring and neglecting and denying who you are as a human, it's incomparable. You can't compare. And I don't think your body is ever going to be truly at ease, because it's like you have to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing, right? You have to keep up with the positivity. And then there's the fear. Ooh, if I go into a dip, if I go into a mood that brings me down, no, that's a bad thing. And then the fear comes in, right? And then the fear is really what traps the soul, and it keeps us from expansion, and it brings us into contraction. And then you're always slightly running away from the shadow that's chasing you in the middle of the night, right? And that can't feel good. So what I found, I was reflecting even just in this last, God, it hasn't even been a month. So much has happened in my life just within a matter of 2 weeks. But, again, I can only share through my own experience. And I've had this experience many times over. And every time I bow down to the process, and I really learn and gain so much wisdom from it. And that is, 2 weeks ago on that Sunday morning, when I felt such despair, such utter despair. And just like, what the fuck? Excuse my language, but like, what the hell? I've put myself out on a limb. I've taken this risk, and I'm not being caught. And that morning I actually had, somewhat forcefully, not completely forcefully, but I tried out the bliss technique, which is about really just sitting in meditation, and you smile and you bring your focus up to the top of, you close your eyes and you bring your focus up to the top of your head. And as Terence McKenna said, you love up. You feel your heart and you love up. And the part of me was like, oh, this doesn't feel very genuine. It feels like a forced smile. But actually it was very interesting, and it ignited a memory of when I was doing a lot of kind of more shamanic and hypnotherapy work in my early 20s, when I was receiving the work, not offering it. And this image that I used to see then, that returned, and it was like, okay, I'm connecting to something that I've forgotten, and I'm remembering it again. And I think this is, I'm going to say it again and again, we're not learning anything new, we're remembering what we've forgotten, and take solace in that, because what that means is it's already in you, and you just have to remember. You just need to peel and chip away at the stone that's around the diamond of who you already are, truly are. So I was doing this bliss technique, but I think, as I already shared, I'm not going to go into the detail of it. It was in the letting go, and it was in the being in the sorrow, the suffering, the meltdown. The meltdown. Literally, I love that word actually. Now that I'm thinking of it, melting down, the hardness, the rigidity, the trying, the resisting, the neglecting, whatever it is specifically to you, it's melting that down. And sometimes I think that's why after we have a meltdown, we relax, we let go. And then the spontaneity, the serendipity, the synchronicity, the magic that can arise from the soil of that. There's actually space for it to birth itself. There's space for it to grow and exist, because we're getting out of the way of trying to control and make things happen, right? In a much more linear, rigid way. There's the spontaneity to be able to kind of flow forth like a fountain, to burst out, almost it's like I say it like a geyser, to burst out of the hardened soil, and that there's enough space for it to come through the crack and really, abundantly pour out. And then that's what then moved into this really miraculous, magical experience where everything just kind of like blah, 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 unfolded and fell into beautiful synchronicity. But what I learned from that is you just cannot bypass the shadow. Like now I feel like I'm really in a state of genuine gratitude, because one thing you need to know about me, I can't fake it. You will know how I'm feeling, because I don't hide it and I don't fake it. I don't also indulge and kind of go into the inertia of it, of like, woe is me, and but I will move through it. Like I will sometimes be in that place, and I, as my friend Louisa, or I should give names, as my dear friend has told me so many times, I never worry about you, Corinne, because you move through things so quickly. But what I have learned is I move through things quickly because I really sit in the fire of it. So I might have, when I was back where I was living for 8.5 years, and I was there kind of just unexpectedly back in February after Mexico, coming back from Mexico early. I, excuse me, still have my morning voice. I had 2 weeks where I really was like in the pits, and was I moping? No, I just was really in it. I was really, really in it. And in those moments when you're in the dark, it can feel like, what the hell? I don't want to be here. It can feel like you're really going down the rabbit hole. But I think the string attached to the balloon, which I've shared in the past, that has always kept me from really diving down and then just staying and like being in the stagnancy of dark waters, is that I know that if I sit with this, and if I stay with this, and I feel the shittiness of it, I feel the discomfort of it, I feel the despair of it, I feel the loneliness of it, I feel I don't even have words for how your poor heart feels in those moments. Just the like, I can't bear this anymore, and I can't believe that this is my life. I know that if I can just stay, and I can stay long enough, and I can stay long enough, I know it will transform. I just know it. But it doesn't transform because of false positivity. It doesn't transform because I'm like, chin up, Corinne. Like, look at the bright side. It has never, ever transformed. If anything, that makes my being more like, fuck you, fuck off and fuck you. Excuse my language to those that don't like to use this terminology. I'm using it as a form of expression to just like that part that's like, enough, leave me alone. I don't want to change who I am. And this is the thing, is when we try to change who we are by denying how we feel in that moment, it's a false change, because we're saying, no, I don't accept you as you are. And that's why it's never worked for me when I'm in those states, when people say, everything is going to be okay, look at the bright side. I'm like, no, that doesn't actually help me. Don't try and fix me. Don't try and resolve the problem, because it's not a problem. It's an experience. And this experience deserves compassion. It deserves empathy. It deserves acknowledgement. It deserves being seen just like any other experience. But we live in a society that's like, I'm only going to see if you're happy and positive and successful. Whereas what we need is, I see you in your darkest depths. I see you in your pain and in your shame. I see you in your despair and in your suffering, and I love you still. That's what we need. And that's what being with is all about. That's the container of love. That's the lap of love. I hold you no matter what. I love you no matter what. I will hold you in your shame. I will hold you in your suffering. I will hold you in your despair. I will hold you in your not wanting to be you and in this life and in this world, and you feel alone and you feel distraught. And I will hold you in all of that and let you know that it's okay. And you can be at peace. And you can just let go and fall back into the arms of faith. You can trust fall back into the arms of faith, knowing that you're held in love and that it's all okay. And you're doing nothing wrong. You're not getting it wrong. You're not doing it wrong. It's all the experience of being human and gaining the wisdom that comes through being human, through the very textured, colored, rich experience of being human. You will remember the divine being that you are through that. And then you will realize how exquisite that process is. So bloody painful in the moment. My God. So hard. But when you get through to the other side, you remember the beauty of life, the beauty of existence, the beauty of who you are. Value who you are. All of who you are. And then beauty and bliss is just naturally there, because what happens is that you're connected to your heart again. When you're in your mind, false positivity, trying to bypass all of these uncomfortable feelings, you have to come out of your heart in order to do that, because your heart feels. And so basically, when you're trying to go into false positivity, you are leaving your heart and you're going into a more analytical part of your brain. And when you leave heart, you leave home. And when you leave home, you're not comfortable. And it's tiring. And you're going to constantly be seeking to return to home to relax and let go. But you're going to be seeking for it outside of yourself. So you're never going to feel at home and you're constantly going to be tired. Does that make sense? So like the way of coming back home and feeling relaxed and feeling free is we have to drop into our heart. And when we drop in our heart, guess what? You're going to feel all the feels. You're going to feel it all, but it's okay, because heart has a huge amount of power. It has a huge radius of vibration. Its vibratory magnetic field is massive. I think it's like 9 meters wide, and I would say it's infinite, right? That's just the energetic magnetic field that maybe is measurable by science, but I would say it's actually infinite. You are as vast as the universe, the galaxy, the multiverse, the omniverse. You are that big because you are it. We are it, right? So we're infinitely expansive. Wow, like just sit with that for a moment. That's far out, isn't it? So basically, our heart can hold it all. It can hold it all. And when we sit with it, there's nothing that you actually have to do. You know, like I find that a lot of my work with people, sometimes I think, God, am I offering enough? Because this seems so simple. But actually, through my own experience, it has been that simple. It's like just literally sit and be with this. And sometimes the process is you have to go through the analytical. We're really used to being in the mind, and there's a lot of story, and we have to understand the beliefs and where they come from and the context, right? We have to give context to our experience. But then slowly the rock softens, it gets chipped away, it turns more into, a soft stone and eventually sand, and then the sand falls away and there's the gem. But it's a process, and if people are wanting to just get to the other side, they're wanting to get to the gold right away, it actually takes longer. It takes a lot longer, because this is a process of alchemy. This is a process of softening that which is hard and rigid. This is a process of dropping from the mind into the heart. I did a podcast on the what is it? The most profound journey you'll take is 9 inches, something like that, from your head to your heart. So it can feel like a massively long journey, but it really is just actually drop from your head into your heart. And then of course it's the coherence, it's the alignment between your head, your heart, and your gut. It's the alignment between the earthly body and the spirit, the divine. And the human vessel is such a beautiful vessel. It is such a beautiful vessel for this connection between the earth, which is its own entity. She's alive, has her own vibratory field, and then the divine, which is up in the ether. And the human is literally the conduit. That's the word that I was looking for. The conduit to connect. I almost see it like, when lightning strikes and it hits the earth. We are the tree, that gets struck in the middle, and it connects, it marries these two beautiful energies of the earth and of the spirit. So really I can see that it is a blessing and an honor and such a unique and special experience to be human. But let us really be human. Let us really take advantage of this opportunity, which sometimes feels super shitty. Sometimes, oh yeah, it's such a, we should be so grateful to be human. I'm like, it sucks. Sometimes it sucks. But actually, every time I come back to seeing the transformation and experiencing it, not just seeing it, experiencing it myself, and I'm reminded again of like, wow, it is so beautiful. It'll move you to tears, the transformation. And because we're in a realm where we compare to a certain degree, we need a point of comparison. So last night I was sitting, I moved yet again, folks. 17th time. But now I'm in this beautiful little flat, and it's uncanny how similar it is to what I was kind of nonchalantly manifesting back in February when I was in those moments of despair, those 2 weeks of despair. I would go to bed and look at these beautiful, it's a real estate agent, their website, and I downloaded some of the photos, and I would just look at the photos of this house. And it had this beautiful sea view and these beautiful pine trees. And I just, would fall asleep looking at that, going, oh God, I would feel so good. That would make me feel so good. And then I'd let go of it. I kind of forgot about it. And then here I am. Okay, it's not a multi-million-dollar house, but I'm sitting on this chaise lounge and I'm looking out towards the sea. And I'm like, wow, I feel so blessed. Like, what a miracle, and how magical it is that I'm sitting here right now. But here's the thing. It is so much more meaningful to me. If it had just been handed to me and I hadn't gone through anything, it would have been like, wow, this is beautiful. Like, wow, this is amazing. Thank you. But there's really something that, like, I remember sitting on the couch that Sunday morning and being in tears, like wailing almost, like this deep, deep cry from the core of my body and being. I remember that. And I remember being like, I don't want to be here anymore. And then I remember asking for help. And then I remember how everything changed from that, and that from that moment forward, and how this magic came in and all these synchronicities started to happen. And it naturally, this is the thing that's so beautiful, it naturally brought me into such a state of gratitude. You know why? Because I was in awe. I was in awe, and I could feel the energy all of a sudden really coming from my heart. I'd been in my mind and in such a state of distress and distraught and despair. And then all of a sudden I'm feeling like the love pour into me because all of these magical things are happening. And I'm in awe of it, that my heart just keeps opening and opening and opening. And there is the gratitude. You don't need to even practice it. It is just there. And then I found myself naturally going into these, because I all of a sudden experienced the magic again, I believed in it again. And so I would ask for, even little things like, I'm going to ask my parking angels for a parking spot, and I keep on being blessed with the parking spot. And I'm going to ask my parking angels for this to move fluidly and for that to happen and for this. And it's unfolding, and I'm like, I'm in awe of it. And because I'm in awe of it, I'm so genuinely, deeply grateful. And I say to it, I say whatever, whether I'm speaking to my angels or my guides or to Source, the creator of all that is life, my higher self, the people, the angels that are coming into my life, that person that helped me in that moment. Whatever it is, I genuinely am bowing down to it and I'm like, thank you. Thank you. I am so grateful. And there is no false positivity in that. But do I feel in a quote unquote positive place? Yes. And I feel genuinely grateful, but it's from the inside out. There's nothing forced. There's nothing it's not an outside in experience. It genuinely feels like it's coming from within me, and it feels natural to me. And I believe this is the state of being of who we naturally are, which is naturally compassionate and empathic and full of love, and therefore full of gratitude. And there are practices that, like, just practicing at the end of the day, I have for the last 20 years of my life. I always do a grounding in the morning and in the evening, but the evening I think is especially important, that I just, I release any energy that isn't mine. I pull my energy into my body. I ground myself, but I go through what I'm thankful for of the day. What were the things that happened in that day, and I give thanks to them. And I always give thanks to, like, my health and my daughter, my mother, those that I love. And even when I hit the points in the day where I'm like, well, that part of my day sucked, I actually try to bow down to it. Not in any kind of false gratitude or false positivity, but I just go, okay, that was a hard part of the day. I acknowledge it. That's the thing. I acknowledge its existence. I don't block it out, because even if we move beyond the illusion of positivity and that false positivity, and I have seen people that also can have false gratitude or forced gratitude, let's call it. Or maybe that's even too hard. Maybe it's not even a forced gratitude, but I'm only going to be in gratitude. And I see that they have been through some hard stuff in their life, and that actually they're going through something that's very hard in their life, but they're not wanting to acknowledge the pain of it. So in those moments, it's like everything is like, oh, I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for that, and I'm great, but I can feel it. I can just feel it, because I'm probably more clairsentient than other, like clairaudient or what's the other one? It's not coming to me. The word's not coming to me, but you know what I'm talking about. But I can feel it. I can feel that there's this kind of like, there's something that's just slightly, it's intention. And you know how I've talked about, are you in tension or are you in relaxation? And relaxation doesn't mean I'm happy and I'm peaceful and everything is dandy. Relaxation is I'm at peace with what is. And that's actual happiness. Happiness is being at peace, and being at peace is I can sit and I can be with all of it. When there's a point of tension, it's because there's a point of resistance. I'm resisting something. I'm not fully acknowledging, allowing, accepting, loving, embracing my experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not vilifying, I'm not judging. But I can feel that person isn't relaxed. And then that makes me go, oh, God, I want for them to be, well, I don't want to say I want for them. I want for all humans. But it's not even my wanting. It's just that I think what we are yearning for is to feel like we can be in our metaphoric sweatpants and let our tummy out. That's what we're looking for here, right? We wouldn't be doing this work if we weren't looking for liberation. And liberation, to me, comes through just relax into who you are, what you're experiencing, knowing that nothing is wrong, that it's all okay, that we have the capacity to hold all of this, that we are being held within this. We are being held by unseen love and by all of the people that represent love to us, whether it's a stranger that smiles at you or helps you out, or it's all around us. It's all around us. But the way to really, this is just from my experience, I can only share it from my experience. The way that I've come to that is I have to sit in and with the shadow. I have to move through it. I have to sit in and with and move through my humanity and all of the messy bits. And I've got to sit with the sorrow, and I've got to sit with the pain, and I've got to soften the judgment by loving it too. And I've got to comfort the shame by loving it too. And through that, that's how I've experienced genuine gratitude. So from suffering, from suffering to gratitude, from the depths of the darkness to just the most beautiful light. But no bypassing, no neglecting. Really being in the heart of it, being the diamond in the hard stone, and just letting that all melt down and melt away. So my invitation to you today is this: how can I relax in? Notice, where are the points of tension? What am I resisting? What am I wanting to bypass? How am I creating any kind of false positivity? How have I fallen for the illusion of positivity? You can get it a lot in the new age, woke, spiritual realm. And again, I don't want to judge it, but it's like we're seeking truth here. And sometimes truth is ugly. That's okay. But truth married with love is such a powerful alchemist. I'll come back to that word. It can transform anything, anything. But we've got to bring truth and love together. So the invitation is just to bring awareness. Where am I in false positivity? Where am I in forced gratitude? And you can reach those states, but through a genuine, much more genuine, authentic path, which means first you might have to what feels like a step back, but I would actually look at it more as like I almost feel my body now moving back and sitting down. It's like sit down on the sofa instead of always running forward, being ahead of yourself. Move back. I actually saw just somebody that was getting some, I don't even know what it was. It was like this process of cleaning out your whole nasal passage. And at the end of it, he said it felt so clear and pure. His eyesight was better. His even the way that he was in his brain, his thinking was better. But he said he feels almost like his head was further back. He was sitting further back, but really upright. And I think most of the time, energetically, we're always wanting to be ahead. I don't want to be here. I don't want to sit here. I want to be ahead of myself. I want to be there. I don't want to be here. And actually, when we just sit here, we can sit back. And that's when our spine gets supported, because we can lean back into life. We can lean back into faith and being held by love, instead of that kind of projection forward that always keeps us slightly off kilter, off balance. Whereas actually, if we can lean back, we'll be much more upright. Our back, our spine will be straight. And then we can really receive and become that conduit, that vessel between the divine and the earthly. And that's where our magic lies. That's where our power lies in this human form. So just giving you a visual for that. Allow yourself to sit back onto the sofa, onto the couch, and relax into, even if it feels uncomfortable at first, stay, and then stay again, and then stay again. And you will come into that natural place of bliss, natural place of gratitude, because you will have moved through it. And when you moved through it, you can look back and you go, wow, I did that. I moved through that, right? It's climbing the mountain and looking back at the journey and how far you've come, and feeling so proud and feeling so grateful that you made it. And there is no point to get to. There's no destination, right? There'll be climbs, there'll be plateaus, there'll be soaring downhill beautifully, riding the wave, like whatever metaphor you want to use, there will be the ebb and flow. Just go with it. Enjoy the blissful moments. Like I'm in a blissful moment right now. Will I hit another kind of tough patch? Could very well be, right? And I'll move through that. Keep softening, keep relaxing, keep being with, Keep holding it with love. Even if it's hard, just have the intention. I'm held with love. I'm held in love. I am love. And just see how it naturally, organically unfolds. You know, I want to say trust me, but actually trust yourself and try it. So as always, I'm going to leave you with that for today. Yeah, and just really genuinely wishing you beautiful, beautiful miracles along your journey. And just knowing that you're not alone if you're in the hard part. Just really loving you through that. As much as I can extend my love to you through the ether. So I'll leave you with that. And as always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. You've been listening to Raw Conversations with Corinne Bloom. Thanks so much for showing up, listening in, and being a part of the conversation with me.